Admiral Park Jin-woo stood on the bridge of Orbital Command Station Alpha, looking out at the stars through the massive viewing port. The space station floated in orbit around Earth, serving as the central command for humanity's defense forces. Below him, the blue and green planet turned slowly, peaceful and beautiful. Around him, the quiet hum of computers and the soft voices of his crew created a calm atmosphere. It was just another normal day in the year 2387. Human colonies spread across 17 star systems, connected by quantum gates that allowed instant travel between worlds. Each system had strong defenses and well-trained military forces. Humanity had learned long ago that the galaxy could be a dangerous place, so they prepared for anything. Captain Lee Dong-min approached the Admiral with his daily report. "Sir, all patrol routes are clear. No unusual activity detected in any of our systems." He was a tall man with sharp eyes and a calm voice. The Admiral trusted him completely. "Good," Admiral Park replied. "Keep monitoring the outer sensors. I want to know if anything moves within 50 light-years of our borders." The door to the bridge opened suddenly, and Dr. Kim So-ra rushed in. She was breathing hard, her hair messy from running. In her hand, she carried a datapad that blinked with red warning lights. The bridge crew turned to look at her, surprised by her urgent arrival. "Admiral," she said, trying to catch her breath, "we have received something impossible, a transmission from beyond our charted space. It's unlike anything we have ever seen." Dr. Kim So-ra was the best xenobiologist in the Terran Defense Force. She studied alien life and technology. If she said something was impossible, the Admiral listened carefully. He took the datapad from her hands and looked at the readings. "What exactly are we looking at, Doctor?" he asked. The signal came from the outer rim, at least 200 light-years from our nearest colony. It's using mathematical patterns and picture symbols. But here's the strange part. It's specifically looking for us, for humanity. Captain Lee moved closer. "How can you be sure?" Dr. Kim pointed to the screen. "Look at these symbols. They show a spiral galaxy with a marked area, our region of space. Then they show crude drawings of bipedal beings. The signal is asking for help from the warrior race that guards the inner spiral. That's us." Admiral Park studied the data carefully. "Have you decoded the full message?" "Most of it. My team worked for 3 days straight. The beings, calling themselves the Villani, are facing complete destruction. Another species called the hegemony is killing them all. They have no weapons, no military. They're farmers and artists. The hegemony is destroying their worlds one by one." The Admiral walked to his command chair and sat down. This was exactly the kind of situation humanity had hoped to avoid. For decades, they had followed a policy of non-interference in alien conflicts. It kept them safe and allowed their colonies to grow in peace. "How did they know about us?" Captain Lee asked. "We've never made contact with either species." Dr. Kim scrolled through more data. "From what I can understand, word travels through refugee networks. Survivors from other conquered worlds whisper about a powerful race that protects the inner spiral. Stories spread, even across vast distances. The Villani heard these stories and decided to send this message." Commander Shin Boram entered the bridge at that moment. She led the Special Operations Division and was known for her quick thinking and fierce loyalty. "Admiral, I've been monitoring hegemony communications intercepts. What Dr. Kim says is true. This empire has destroyed over 50 worlds in the past 5 years. They take no prisoners except for slaves. Complete genocide seems to be their standard policy." The bridge fell silent. Every person there understood the weight of this decision. If they responded to the Villani plea, humanity would be declaring war on an unknown enemy. If they ignored it, an entire peaceful species would die. "Doctor, show me everything you know about both species," the Admiral ordered. Dr. Kim activated the main display screen. Images appeared showing the Villani homeworlds before the attacks. Beautiful cities with crystal spires rose from green valleys. Villani beings looked graceful and tall, with translucent skin that glowed softly. They lived in harmony with their environment, creating art and music instead of weapons. They evolved on worlds with no large predators, Dr. Kim explained. They never developed aggressive instincts or military technology. Their entire civilization is based on cooperation and creativity. The screen changed to show hegemony forces. Massive warships with dark hulls and threatening designs. Soldiers in heavy armor carrying powerful weapons. Cities reduced to ash and rubble. The hegemony is different, Dr. Kim continued. They're a multi-species empire built on conquest. They have superior technology and ruthless tactics. Every species they encounter either joins them as slaves or gets completely eliminated. Ambassador Yoon Tai-ho arrived on the bridge with several other senior officers. Word had spread quickly through the station that something important was happening. The ambassador was responsible for all diplomatic matters and would need to be involved in any major decisions. Admiral, I understand we have received a first contact situation, the ambassador said. More than that, Admiral Park replied. We have received a plea for help from a species facing extinction. Engineer Choi Hee-jin spoke up from her position at the engineering station. Sir, if I may, our latest weapon systems could make a significant difference. We've made advances that no other known species possesses. That's not the point, Engineer, Ambassador Yoon said. The question is whether we should get involved at all. Our policy has always been to protect human interests first. Captain Oh Soo-jin, who commanded the elite fighter squadrons, stepped forward. With respect, Ambassador, what are human interests if not protecting innocent life? We didn't build the strongest military in this region of space just to hide behind it. Dr. Kang Min-ho, the strategic intelligence analyst, had been quietly reviewing data on his portable computer. He looked up with a serious expression. Admiral, there's something else you need to know. According to these communication intercepts, the hegemony knows about us. They've been monitoring human expansion for years. The destruction of the Villani isn't just conquest. It's a message meant for us. They want us to know that resistance is useless. The Admiral stood up slowly. This changed everything. The hegemony wasn't just threatening the Villani. They were threatening humanity's security as well. By destroying peaceful species near human space, they were sending a clear warning. They're testing our resolve, Captain Lee said, understanding immediately. Exactly, Dr. Kang confirmed. If we do nothing, they'll see it as weakness. Eventually, they'll move against our colonies directly. Commander Shin added, My reconnaissance teams have detected increased hegemony activity near 3 of our outer systems. They're already positioning for future attacks. Admiral Park walked back to the viewing port and stared out at the stars. Somewhere out there, an entire species was dying while waiting for help that might never come. At the same time, humanity faced a threat that would only grow larger if left unchecked. He thought about the human colonies, millions of families living peaceful lives on distant worlds, children playing in parks, scientists making discoveries, artists creating beautiful things, all of it protected by the military forces under his command. But he also thought about the Villani. Peaceful beings who had never hurt anyone, facing complete destruction simply because they couldn't defend themselves. They had reached out across the vast darkness of space, hoping that somewhere, someone would care enough to help. Ambassador, call an emergency session of the Terran Council, the Admiral ordered. This decision is too important for military command alone. Yes, sir, Ambassador Yoon replied. But I should warn you, the Council will be reluctant to commit our forces to a conflict with unknown risks. Then we'll have to convince them, Admiral Park said firmly. 2 hours later, the Admiral stood before the 12 members of the Terran Council via quantum communication link. Representatives from all major human colonies appeared as holograms around the conference table. Each one had reviewed the Villani message and the intelligence about the hegemony threat. Counselor Martinez from Alpha Centauri spoke first. Admiral, while we sympathize with the Villani situation, we cannot risk human lives for aliens we've never met. Counselor Chen from the Tau Ceti colonies disagreed. If we ignore this threat, it will eventually reach our doorstep. Better to face it now, on our terms. The debate continued for an hour. Some council members wanted to send humanitarian aid but avoid military involvement. Others argued for complete non-interference. A few supported full military action. Finally, Admiral Park requested permission to speak. Counselors, I've served in the Terran Defense Force for 30 years. I've seen what happens when good people do nothing while evil spreads. The hegemony has murdered 50 civilizations. They won't stop until someone stops them. He paused and looked each counselor in the eye through their holographic projections. We have the most powerful military force in this region of space. We developed that power to protect humanity. But what does it mean to be human if we use our strength only for ourselves? Counselor Park from New Korea leaned forward. What exactly are you proposing, Admiral? Full military response, we answer the Villani call for. Captain Lee Dongmin had never seen anything like it. Ships arrived at Thunder Junction from every corner of human space, creating the largest military gathering in history. The staging area, located in an empty star system between human colonies and Villani space, filled with vessels of every size and type. Massive dreadnoughts arrived first, their hulls bristling with weapon arrays and shield generators. Each one was larger than most alien capital ships and carried enough firepower to crack a planet's surface. Behind them came heavy cruisers, destroyers, and support vessels. Fighter squadrons filled the space between larger ships like schools of deadly fish. The flagship Indomitable served as the fleet's command center. Captain Lee stood on its bridge watching ship after ship arrive through quantum gates. Each arrival was announced by a flash of blue light as the gates opened and closed. 17th Fleet has arrived, Captain, reported his communications officer. That makes all major battle groups accounted for. Captain Lee nodded and activated his communication link to Admiral Park. Sir, all fleets have reached the staging area. Total count is 847 combat vessels, plus support ships. Admiral Park's voice came through clearly despite the distance. Excellent work, Captain. Begin final preparations immediately. I want every ship ready for combat within 24 hours. Across the fleet, activity increased to a frantic pace. Engineer Choi Hee-jin supervised the loading of humanity's most advanced weapons. Her teams worked around the clock, installing systems that had been classified beyond top secret until this moment. Careful with those quantum disruptors, she told her crew as they loaded sleek metal containers onto the weapon platforms. Each one of those can tear apart the molecular bonds of anything it hits. We don't want any accidents. The quantum disruptors were just one of humanity's hidden advantages. Kinetic bombardment systems could fire projectiles at nearly the speed of light. Plasma cannons focused stellar energy into beams that could melt through any known armor. Shield generators created barriers that could absorb incredible amounts of damage. But the most terrifying weapons were the Prometheus devices. Only 12 existed, and their very presence was known only to the highest levels of command. Engineer Choi personally oversaw their installation on the most powerful ships. These weapons are to be used only on Admiral Park's direct order, she told the installation teams. The safety protocols require 3 separate authorization codes. Meanwhile, Dr. Kang Min-ho worked with his intelligence teams to gather every piece of information about the hegemony. What they learned made the upcoming battle even more important. The hegemony controls 237 star systems, he reported to Captain Lee. Their military doctrine is based on overwhelming numerical superiority and advanced technology. They've never faced serious resistance because most species surrender rather than face complete destruction. Dr. Kang showed holographic displays of hegemony ship designs. Their vessels are heavily armored and carry powerful energy weapons. They prefer direct assault tactics, using massive numbers to crush any opposition. Captain Oh Soo-jin studied the enemy ship specifications with professional interest. She commanded humanity's elite fighter squadrons and would be responsible for protecting the larger vessels during combat. Their fighters look fast, she observed, but they seem to rely on energy weapons exclusively. No kinetic systems at all. That's correct, Dr. Kang confirmed. Most species in this region of space never developed kinetic weapons beyond simple projectiles. They don't understand the physics of relativistic bombardment. Captain O smiled grimly. Human fighters carried both energy and kinetic weapons, plus electronic warfare systems that could disrupt enemy targeting. The hegemony pilots were about to face tactics they had never encountered. Commander Shin Bo-ram prepared her special operations teams for their most dangerous mission yet. While the main fleet engaged hegemony forces directly, her soldiers would board enemy vessels to gather intelligence and rescue prisoners. "Remember, we're not just fighting for humanity," she told her teams during the final briefing. "We're fighting for every innocent being the hegemony has enslaved or murdered. No mercy for those who commit genocide, but we protect any prisoners we find." Her soldiers nodded grimly. They had studied the intelligence reports showing hegemony atrocities. Entire cities reduced to ash, civilian populations processed through automated killing facilities, cultural artifacts destroyed to erase the memory of conquered species. Dr. Kim Sora continued monitoring communications from Vallani, space. The reports grew more desperate each day. 3 more Vallani worlds had fallen silent, their populations presumably eliminated. Only a handful of planets remained, and hegemony forces surrounded them. "Admiral, we're running out of time," she reported during the daily briefing. "The Vallani are hiding in underground shelters, but their food supplies are nearly exhausted. If we don't arrive soon, there may be no one left to save." Admiral Park reviewed the latest intelligence reports with growing concern. The hegemony wasn't just attacking military targets. They were systematically destroying everything that made Vallani civilization unique. Libraries burned, artwork melted. Even the plants and animals native to Vallani worlds were being eliminated. They're not just conquering, he realized. They're erasing the Vallani completely from existence. Ambassador Yoon Tai-ho had been monitoring diplomatic channels, trying to find some peaceful solution, but every attempt at communication was ignored or answered with threats. "The Hegemony Supreme Command sent a final message," he reported. "They say any species that interferes with their operations will face the same fate as their victims." They specifically mentioned humanity by name. Captain Lee clenched his fists. "They're threatening our colonies directly." "Yes," the ambassador confirmed. "They consider our military buildup an act of aggression. They've demanded that we withdraw all forces and submit to their authority." The bridge crew exchanged glances. The hegemony's arrogance was breathtaking. They were demanding humanity's surrender before any battle had even begun. Admiral Park's voice came through the communication system with deadly calm. "Send them our response, Ambassador. Tell them that humanity doesn't negotiate with genocidal murderers. Tell them they have until we arrive in Vallani space to begin complete withdrawal from all conquered worlds." "And if they refuse?" Ambassador Yoon asked. "Then they'll learn what happens when they threaten human colonies and innocent species under our protection." The final day of preparation arrived with tense excitement throughout the fleet. Every ship had been loaded with weapons, supplies, and special equipment. Medical bays prepared for casualties. Engineering teams made final checks on all systems. Engineer Choi Hee-jin completed the installation of her most advanced creation, a weapon system so powerful that it had never been tested in actual combat. The Indomitable and 2 other dreadnoughts now carried devices that could focus the energy of an entire star into a single beam. "These stellar focus cannons are completely experimental," she warned Captain Lee. "They should work, according to our calculations, but we've never fired them at an actual target." "Will they be ready if we need them?" Captain Lee asked. "They'll be ready. Whether they work as designed, we'll find out together." Dr. Kang Min-ho's intelligence teams had identified the key targets in Vallani space. The hegemony fleet was concentrated around the remaining inhabited worlds, confident that no one would dare challenge their overwhelming numbers. "They have approximately 3,000 combat vessels," he reported, "everything from small patrol craft to massive battleships. Their command ship is a Fortress-class dreadnought called the Dominator. Intelligence suggests their Supreme Admiral Vorthak commands from that vessel." Commander Shin Bo-ram studied the fleet compositions with tactical interest. "They're using standard siege formations. They clearly don't expect any serious resistance." Captain Oh Soo-jin was more blunt. "They're positioned like they're fighting primitives with spears and arrows. This is going to be a massacre." The final briefing took place aboard the Indomitable, with all senior officers present either in person or via communication link. Admiral Park stood before a holographic display showing their destination. "In 6 hours we jump to Vellani space," he announced. "Our mission is simple. Eliminate the hegemony threat completely. No half measures, no negotiated settlements. They chose genocide as their weapon. We will show them the consequences of that choice." He looked around the room at his officers. The hegemony has conquered over 200 worlds because no one was strong enough to stop them. Today they meet a species that is stronger. Today they learn that some things are worth fighting for. Captain Lee asked the question everyone was thinking. "Rules of engagement, sir? Any hegemony vessel that attacks human forces or continues attacking Vellani civilians will be destroyed. Vessels that attempt to surrender may be accepted, but only after they power down all weapons and submit to boarding. We are not here to show mercy to genocidal murderers." The briefing ended with final preparations. Across the fleet, crews made last checks on their equipment. Weapon systems powered up. Shield generators hummed to life. Fighter pilots ran through their final flight checks. Dr. Kim So-ra sent one final message to the surviving Vellani. "Help is..." The human fleet arrived at the edge of Vellani space to witness a scene of systematic destruction. What had once been 17 beautiful worlds now resembled graveyards floating in the darkness of space. Orbital stations hung broken and lifeless. The green and blue planets that Dr. Kim So-ra had shown them in the briefings were now brown and gray, their atmospheres choked with smoke from burning cities. Admiral Park stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching the devastation through the main viewing screen. Around the dead worlds, the hegemony fleet moved in lazy patrol patterns. 3,000 ships of various sizes filled the system, confident in their overwhelming numbers and superior position. "Sensors detect massive hegemony presence," reported the tactical officer. "They're not even trying to hide. They want us to see what they've done." Captain Lee studied the enemy formations with professional interest. "They're spread out in standard occupation patterns, no defensive preparations at all. They really don't think we're a threat." Dr. Kim So-ra worked frantically at her science station, scanning for any signs of Vellani survivors. "Admiral, I'm detecting faint life signs on 3 of the planets. Underground shelters may be natural cave systems. There are still people alive down there." Commander Shin Bo-ram examined the tactical display showing enemy ship positions. "Sir, if we move fast, we can prevent them from targeting the survivors, but we need to act immediately." The largest hegemony vessel, a massive fortress ship, hung in orbit around the primary Vellani homeworld. Its hull was black as space itself, covered with weapon arrays and armor plating. This had to be the Dominator, command ship of Supreme Admiral Vorthak. As if responding to human thoughts, a communication signal came from the enemy flagship. Captain Lee looked to Admiral Park for instructions. "Put it on the main screen," the Admiral ordered. The image that appeared was both impressive and disturbing. Supreme Admiral Vorthak was clearly not from any single species. Cybernetic implants and genetic modifications had turned him into something new. His voice carried the authority of someone who had never known defeat. So, the primitive humans finally show themselves. "I am Supreme Admiral Vorthak of the Hegemony Fleet. You will withdraw immediately or share the fate of the pathetic Vellani." Admiral Park stepped forward calmly. "I am Admiral Park Jinwoo of the Terran Defense Force. You have committed genocide against a peaceful species. You have threatened the security of human space. You have 30 seconds to begin immediate withdrawal from this system." Vorthak's response was exactly what everyone expected. Cruel laughter that echoed across the communication channel. 30 seconds? You amuse me, human. My fleet has conquered civilizations with technology far beyond your primitive understanding. We have crushed species that ruled space when your kind still lived in caves. Other hegemony commanders appeared on subsidiary screens around Vorthak, all showing the same arrogant confidence. They had destroyed over 200 worlds without serious resistance. Why should humanity be any different? Your pathetic force of a few hundred ships thinks to challenge 3,000 vessels of the mighty hegemony? We will use your bones to decorate our victory monuments, just as we did with the Vellani leadership. Admiral Park checked his chronometer with deliberate calm. 30 seconds have elapsed. What happened next redefined naval warfare across the galaxy. Engineer Choi Hai-jin's weapon systems activated simultaneously across the human fleet. The first weapons to fire were the kinetic bombardment systems, magnetic accelerators that launched dense metal projectiles at 90% of light speed. The hegemony sensors couldn't even detect the incoming rounds before they struck their targets. The lead formation of enemy cruisers simply disintegrated. No explosions, no dramatic fireballs. The kinetic rounds transferred so much energy that the ship's molecular bonds broke apart instantly. Where 12 hegemony vessels had been, now only expanding clouds of superheated gas remained. Supreme Admiral Vorthak's expression changed from arrogance to confusion. What weapons are those? Our sensors detected no energy signatures. His question was answered by the second wave of human attacks. Plasma cannons designed for asteroid mining focused stellar-level energy into coherent beams. The weapons had been built to cut through solid rock, but they worked equally well on armored hulls. Captain Osu-jin launched her fighter squadrons at the same moment. 200 small human craft streaked toward enemy formations, moving with impossible speed and agility. The hegemony pilots scrambled to respond, but their targeting systems couldn't lock onto vessels using quantum uncertainty fields. Enemy fighters they're not showing up on our sensors, reported a panicked hegemony pilot over open communications. How are we supposed to fight what we can't see? The human fighters answered that question with devastating precision. Each carried both energy weapons and kinetic systems, plus electronic warfare packages that could disrupt enemy targeting completely. They struck the hegemony formations like invisible lightning, destroying 2 ships for every one lost. But the most shocking demonstration came from the human capital ships themselves. The hegemony fleet fired everything they had at the approaching dreadnoughts. Energy beams that could vaporize mountains, particle cannons that had shattered asteroid fields, quantum torpedoes that ignored most known defenses. The human ships didn't even slow down. Their energy shields absorbed the incoming fire and channeled it into capacitor banks, actually strengthening their defensive systems with each enemy attack. Armor plating made from materials unknown to hegemony. Science shrugged off weapons that had destroyed countless civilizations. Captain Lee watched the tactical display with professional satisfaction. All ships report minimal damage. Shield systems at 112% efficiency thanks to enemy fire. Supreme Admiral Vorthak stared at his tactical screens in growing horror. His overwhelming numerical advantage meant nothing if his weapons couldn't damage enemy vessels. This is impossible. No species possesses such defensive technology. Focus all fire on their flagship, he ordered desperately. Concentrate everything on the largest vessel. Over 400 hegemony ships turned their weapons toward the Indomitable. Energy beams, plasma bolts, and quantum torpedoes struck the human dreadnought in a display that lit up the entire system. The attack continued for 30 seconds, pouring more destructive force than most planets ever experienced. When the light faded, the Indomitable continued its approach without any visible damage. Captain Lee didn't even order evasive maneuvers. Enemy fire has actually improved our shield efficiency by 8%, reported the tactical officer. Should we return fire, Captain? Captain Lee looked to Admiral Park for instructions. The Admiral nodded once. Fire the main cannon. Single shot. Target the enemy flagship. Engineer Choi activated the stellar focus cannon she had installed during preparation. The weapon drew power from the ship's fusion reactors and focused it through crystalline arrays that concentrated energy like a magnifying glass concentrates sunlight. The beam that emerged was invisible to normal sensors, but its effects were immediate and absolute. The Dominator, Supreme Admiral Vorthak's fortress ship along with 12 surrounding vessels, simply ceased to exist. No debris, no explosion, no trace that they had ever been there. The stellar focus cannon had disrupted their atomic structure completely. The hegemony fleet fell into stunned silence. Their supreme commander, the ship he commanded, and a dozen supporting vessels had been eliminated by a single shot from a weapon they couldn't even see. Commander Shinbo Ram's special operations teams took advantage of the confusion to begin boarding operations. Using teleportation technology that the hegemony didn't know existed, her soldiers appeared directly on enemy ships. What the hegemony crews discovered was that humans fought with a combination of advanced technology and calculated violence that made their own atrocities seem almost merciful. Every enemy officer who had participated in the genocide of civilians faced personal justice from human hands. Boarding teams report successful capture of 17 enemy vessels, Commander Shin reported. Prisoners are being secured and data cores downloaded. The remaining hegemony fleet tried to regroup, but their entire tactical doctrine had become useless. They had been trained to fight species with similar technology and conventional tactics. The humans used weapons and techniques that shouldn't have been possible. Captain O's fighter squadrons completed their sweep of enemy formations, destroying over 300 small craft without losing a single pilot. The hegemony fighters designed for combat against primitive opponents couldn't adapt to human superiority in speed, stealth, and firepower. All enemy fighter squadrons eliminated, Captain O reported, requesting permission to begin attacks on capital ships. Permission granted, Admiral Park replied. Focus on vessels attempting to target the planets below. The human fighters immediately shifted their attacks to hegemony ships that were turning their weapons toward the worlds where Volani survivors still hid. These vessels found themselves facing an enemy they couldn't see, couldn't hit, and couldn't escape. Dr. Kang Min-ho monitored enemy communications as panic spread through their ranks. Admiral, they're trying to coordinate a retreat, but their command structure has collapsed. Individual ship commanders. Dr. Kim So-ra stepped out of the transport shuttle onto the scarred surface of the primary Volani homeworld, her medical team close behind. The air still carried the smell of burning cities, but life was returning to areas the hegemony had abandoned. Underground, millions of Volani had survived in hidden shelters, waiting for rescue that had seemed impossible. The first meeting between humans and Volani became a moment that would be remembered across the galaxy for generations. Elder Shiara emerged from a camouflaged entrance to the underground city, her tall frame trembling with exhaustion and hope. The Volani were beautiful beings, graceful and ethereal, with translucent skin that normally glowed with soft bioluminescence. But trauma and starvation had dimmed their natural light to barely visible flickers. Elder Shiara approached Dr. Kim with careful steps, her large eyes filled with wonder and gratitude. When she spoke, her voice carried the musical quality typical of her species, though weakened by suffering. Star Warrior, she whispered in carefully practiced human language. The legends spoke truth. You came when darkness covered all the light. Our children live because you heard our call across the great emptiness. Dr. Kim felt tears forming in her eyes as she looked at this dignified being who had endured so much horror. Elder Shiara, I am Dr. Kim So-ra. We came as quickly as we could. Your people are safe now. The hegemony will never hurt you again. Behind Elder Shiara, other Volani emerged from hidden entrances. Families with young children, elderly beings, who had lived through centuries of peace, artists and farmers who had never imagined such violence could exist. They looked at the human rescue teams with a mixture of disbelief and growing joy. Ambassador Yoon Tae-ho had arrived with the first diplomatic mission, ready to establish formal relations between humanity and the Volani. But the survivors needed no convincing of human intentions. They had witnessed the swift, precise elimination of their oppressors with minimal damage to their own world. Ambassador, Elder Shiara said through a translation device, we have no governments left to speak with you. The hegemony destroyed our leadership and our cities. We are simply grateful beings who owe you our lives. You owe us nothing, Ambassador Yoon replied gently. Helping those who cannot help themselves is what defines us as civilized beings. We're here to assist in whatever way you need. Dr. Kim's medical teams began immediate treatment of malnutrition and injuries among the survivors. Human technology seemed miraculous to beings who had been living on scraps and dirty water. Medical scanners diagnosed problems instantly, while treatment devices healed wounds and restored health with unprecedented speed. But even as the humanitarian mission proceeded, Captain Oh Soo-jin's reconnaissance flights were discovering something that changed the entire scope of the operation. High-altitude sweeps revealed the true extent of hegemony operations across this region of space. "Admiral, you need to see this," she reported from her fighter cockpit. "I've been monitoring communications from nearby systems. The hegemony empire is massive, dozens of star systems, each containing billions of enslaved beings from hundreds of different species." Admiral Park received the report aboard the Indomitable, where he was coordinating the relief efforts. The tactical display showed a network of controlled worlds stretching across a significant portion of the galaxy's outer rim. Each system contained evidence of systematic oppression and exploitation. "How many species are we talking about, Captain?" he asked. "Preliminary estimates suggest over 300 distinct civilizations under hegemony control. Some are used as labor forces, others for their natural resources or unique technologies. But sir, there's something else. Many of these species tried to resist when they were first conquered. The hegemony has been using them as examples to discourage future rebellion." Dr. Kang Min-ho's intelligence teams had been analyzing captured hegemony data cores, uncovering the full scope of their empire's atrocities. "Admiral, the hegemony didn't just conquer these species. They've been using systematic terror to maintain control. Public executions, destruction of cultural sites, forced relocations that break up family groups. It's designed to crush any hope of resistance." Commander Shin Bo-ram had interrogated several captured hegemony officers, learning disturbing details about their expansion plans. "Sir, they've been preparing to move against human space for over 2 years. The Villani genocide was meant to be the final step before launching a full assault on our colonies. The implications were staggering. Humanity hadn't just prevented one genocide. They had discovered a sprawling empire built on oppression and murder, one that was actively planning to attack human civilians." Engineer Choi Hye-jin was studying the technical aspects of hegemony expansion when she made a crucial discovery. "Admiral, their entire network depends on centralized command and control systems. They use quantum communication arrays to coordinate activities across multiple star systems simultaneously." "What does that mean for us?" Admiral Park asked. "Means we could theoretically disrupt their entire empire at once. If we could identify and eliminate their key command nodes, the whole system would collapse. Local commanders would be cut off from central authority and forced to act independently." Captain Lee had been analyzing the tactical situation from a military perspective. "Sir, our fleet proved we can defeat any hegemony force through superior technology and tactics. But the scale of their empire raises a question. Do we have the resources to liberate every enslaved world?" Admiral Park walked to the main viewing port and stared out at the recovering Villani world below. Lights were appearing in areas that had been dark for months as survivors emerged from hiding. Children who had lived their entire lives underground were seeing sunlight for the first time. "Captain, assemble all senior staff for an emergency strategy session. Include Dr. Kim and Elder Shiara via communication link. We need to make a decision that will affect billions of beings." 2 hours later, the leadership of the human fleet gathered in the main conference room. The holographic display showed a detailed map of hegemony space with enslaved worlds marked in red and key strategic targets highlighted in blue. Dr. Kim spoke first from her position on the planet's surface. "Admiral, the Villani survivors have been sharing information about other species they encountered in hegemony prison facilities. Hundreds of civilizations are still fighting for survival in slave labor camps and processing centers." Elder Shiara appeared as a hologram beside Dr. Kim, her bioluminescence slightly brighter after receiving medical treatment. "Star Warriors, before the darkness came, we received messages from many peoples. They called out into the void, hoping someone would hear their pain. We were not the only ones who needed rescue." Engineer Choi presented her analysis of hegemony infrastructure. "If we act quickly, we can use their own communication network against them. Simultaneous attacks on 17 key systems would cripple their coordination completely." "How simultaneous?" Captain Lee asked. "Within minutes of each other. The quantum communication delays would prevent them from coordinating responses. By the time they realized what was happening, their command structure would be in chaos." Dr. Kang added his intelligence assessment. The hegemony military is designed to crush primitive resistance, not fight a technologically superior enemy, using unconventional tactics. If we spread their forces across multiple systems, they can't concentrate enough ships to challenge us. Commander Shin outlined the special operations aspects. My teams can infiltrate their communication networks and rescue high-value prisoners while the main fleet engages their military forces. We've learned their security protocols from captured personnel. Admiral Park listened to all perspectives before making his decision. The hegemony chose to base their empire on genocide and slavery. They plan to attack human colonies and destroy peaceful species throughout this region. The question isn't whether we should act, it's how comprehensive our response should be. He activated the holographic display, showing the full scope of hegemony territory. Engineer Choi, I want you to prepare Operation Thunderbolt. Simultaneous liberation of every major hegemony stronghold. Captain Lee, divide our fleet into 17 strike groups, each powerful enough to defeat whatever forces we encounter. Captain O looked at the tactical requirements with professional interest. Sir, that will spread our forces across dozens of light years. We won't be able to support each other if something goes wrong. Then we'll have to make sure nothing goes wrong, Admiral Park replied. Commander Shin, I want your teams infiltrating hegemony communications within 6 hours. Dr. Kang, identify their most critical command nodes. Captain O, prepare your squadrons for extended operations. Ambassador Yoon raised a diplomatic concern. Admiral, an operation of this scale will announce humanity's presence to every power in this region of space. We'll be declaring ourselves the protectors of hundreds of species we've never met. Good, Admiral Park said firmly. Let every empire in the galaxy know that humanity protects those who cannot protect themselves. Let them know that genocide and slavery will be met with overwhelming force. Elder Shiara spoke up from her holographic projection. Star Warriors. The old songs speak of a time when guardians would rise to protect all life from the great darkness. Your people. 6 months after the first Villani distress call, Admiral Park Jin-woo stood in the Grand Assembly Hall on the neutral world of Haven Prime. Around him, representatives from 97 liberated species gathered for the inaugural session of the Liberated Worlds Council. The diversity was overwhelming and beautiful. Crystalline beings like the Villani sat beside gaseous entities that communicated through controlled electromagnetic pulses. Ancient machine intelligences, their consciousness, spread across multiple robotic forms, shared tables with biological collectives that thought as unified organisms. Some species breathed oxygen, others required methane atmospheres, and a few existed as pure energy contained in specialized vessels. Despite their incredible differences, all shared common experiences. They had survived hegemony oppression, and they owed their freedom to humanity's intervention. The gratitude was universal, expressed through songs, light displays, chemical releases, and electromagnetic patterns that filled the hall with a symphony of appreciation. Elder Shiara of the Villani served as the council's first speaker, her bioluminescence now restored to its full glory. Her people had become symbols of hope throughout the liberated worlds, proof that even the most desperate situations could be overcome. Beings of the free worlds, she announced through translation devices that converted her musical language into hundreds of different communication forms. We gather not as conquered peoples but as partners in a new age. The Star Warriors of humanity have given us more than freedom. They have given us the chance to build something better than what we lost. Dr. Kim Sora sat in the scientific advisory section, surrounded by researchers from dozens of species. The knowledge exchange program she had established was already revolutionizing galactic science. Human medical techniques were saving lives on worlds where disease had been a constant threat. Agricultural methods developed on human colonies were feeding populations that had survived on starvation rations under hegemony rule. In return, humanity was learning incredible things. The Cathera, a species of living crystals, could manipulate gravity through resonance frequencies. The Jal Collective had developed biological computers that could process information faster than quantum systems. The ancient preservers possessed historical records spanning millions of years. The knowledge we share benefits everyone, Dr. Kim reported to the assembly. Human medical technology has already saved over 10 million lives on liberated worlds. But we have learned just as much from our new allies. The combined knowledge of nearly 100 species will advance all our civilizations by centuries. Engineer Choi Hye-jin presented her most ambitious project yet, a network of quantum gates connecting all liberated worlds. The gates would be protected by automated defense platforms using the best technology from every member species. Any future aggressor would face not individual worlds, but a unified response backed by humanity's military might. The defense network will make conquest of any member world impossible, she explained through holographic displays showing gate placements and weapon configurations. An attack on one world becomes an attack on all worlds. No empire will have the strength to challenge our combined forces. Captain Lee Dong-min had been promoted to Fleet Admiral and now commanded the expanded Terran Defense Force. Human shipyards worked around the clock to build vessels incorporating technologies learned from liberated species. The new ships were faster, stronger, and more versatile than anything previously imagined. Our fleet has grown to over 2,000 vessels, he reported. But more importantly, we now have allies who can support our operations. Kythera gravity manipulators make our ships impossible to track. JAL biological computers give us tactical advantages no enemy can match. Every species contributes something valuable to our mutual defense. Ambassador Yoon Tae-ho announced the Terran Protectorate Doctrine, which had become the foundation of the new galactic order. Any species facing extinction or enslavement could petition humanity for protection. The response would be immediate and decisive. Word of our interventions has spread across the galaxy, he told the assembly. 3 more species have requested protection from aggressive neighbors. 2 have been resolved through diplomatic pressure alone. The threat of human intervention has made aggression much less attractive to potential conquerors. But not all news was positive. Captain Oh Soo-jin, now commanding the Elite Reconnaissance Division, reported disturbing intelligence from the galactic core. Ancient powers that had remained hidden for millennia were stirring, viewing humanity's rapid expansion of influence as a threat to their dominance. Long-range sensors detect massive energy signatures moving from the core systems toward our region of space, she reported. These aren't normal ship signatures. Whatever is coming uses technology we don't recognize. Dr. Kang Min-ho's expanded intelligence network had uncovered evidence of civilizations that predated current galactic society. The beings approaching us call themselves the Ancients. They've been dormant for over 50,000 years, but our actions have awakened their attention. They consider this region of space to be under their authority. Commander Shinbo Ram's deep reconnaissance teams had managed to gather fragments of information about these mysterious entities. What we've learned suggests the Ancients once ruled much of the galaxy. They withdrew to the core systems for reasons unknown, but they apparently maintained monitoring stations throughout space. The implications were staggering. Humanity had spent months eliminating the hegemony and establishing the Liberated Worlds Council, only to discover that far greater powers existed in the galaxy. Powers that might view human actions as unacceptable interference in their territory. Elder Shiara spoke for many of the liberated species when she addressed these concerns. Star Warriors, our people survived because you were strong enough to defeat the hegemony. If greater darkness approaches, we trust in your strength again. You have never failed those who needed protection. But Admiral Park understood that the upcoming challenge would be unlike anything humanity had faced. The hegemony had been arrogant and powerful, but they used conventional technology and tactics. The Ancients possessed capabilities that defied current understanding of physics and engineering. Engineer Choi was already working on countermeasures using knowledge gained from all allied species. We're developing new weapon systems that combine human engineering with alien science. Kythera gravity weapons, JAL biological computers, and preserver historical knowledge about ancient weaknesses. Historical knowledge? Admiral Park asked. Yeah. Preservers were already ancient when the Ancients ruled the galaxy, Dr. Kang explained. Their records suggest the Ancients withdrew because of internal conflicts, not external threats. They may not be as unified or invincible as they want us to believe. Captain O's reconnaissance flights had detected the first signs of ancient activity at the edge of human space. "Admiral, they're not approaching like a normal fleet. These energy signatures move through space in ways that shouldn't be possible. They ignore physical laws we consider fundamental." The preparations began immediately. Human shipyards accelerated production of new vessel classes designed to fight enemies with unknown capabilities. The quantum gate network was strengthened with defensive systems that could channel the combined industrial output of 97 worlds. Dr. Kim worked with alien scientists to develop new defensive technologies. Medical knowledge from dozens of species was combined to create treatments for injuries that might be caused by weapons beyond current understanding. If humanity was going to face beings with godlike power, they needed every advantage possible. Commander Shin's special forces trained for operations against enemies who might not be bound by normal physical limitations. Her teams practiced using equipment that combined the best technology from every allied species. Each soldier became a walking example of cooperative advancement. Ambassador Yoon established diplomatic protocols for contact with beings who had ruled the galaxy when humanity was still developing agriculture. The challenge was creating communication methods that would work with entities whose thought processes might be completely alien. As preparations continued, more intelligence arrived about the approaching threat. The ancients weren't just coming to investigate, they were coming to reclaim what they considered their rightful territory. Every species in the liberated region faced potential subjugation or elimination. Elder Shi'ara made a statement that resonated throughout the alliance. The ancients may have ruled the galaxy in the past, but they abandoned their responsibility to protect innocent life. They allowed the hegemony to commit genocide while they slept in their hidden worlds. Why should we submit to those who failed in their duty as guardians? Dr. Kim made a discovery that changed everything. While studying preserver historical records, she found references to the ancients' original withdrawal from galactic affairs. They didn't leave because of internal conflicts alone. They left because younger species were becoming too advanced to control easily. They retreated to the core systems to avoid direct confrontation. "What does that mean for us?" Admiral Park asked. "It means they may be more vulnerable than they want us to believe. They're used to dealing with primitive species that submit to